Most people don't lose their lives overnight. They slowly drift away from the person they were meant to become. It doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happens in silence. One excuse at a time, one delayed dream at a time, one promise to yourself that goes unanswered. And one day, you wake up and realize you're living a life that feels unfamiliar, heavy, and far smaller than your potential. But here's the truth. You were not born to stay broken, stuck in survival mode. Inside you is a version of yourself that is stronger, sharper, more disciplined, and more capable than the one standing here today. That version isn't built by accident. It is built through decisions. Painful ones, quietly ones. Rebuilding yourself doesn't start when life gets easy. It starts when you decide that staying the same is more painful than changing. And that decision doesn't require permission. It requires courage. Because the moment you choose to rise, even when you're tired, even when you're scared, even when no one believes in you, that is the moment your new life begins. Personal responsibility is the foundation of real change because it places the power of transformation directly into your own hands rather than leaving it in the hands of circumstances, people, or luck. When someone accepts personal responsibility, they stop living as a victim of life and start living as the architect of it. This shift is not always comfortable because it requires honest self-reflection and the courage to admit that many of the results in one's life, both good and bad, are connected to personal choices, habits, and attitudes. However, it is precisely this honesty that makes growth possible because you cannot fix what you refuse to acknowledge. Most people spend years blaming external factors for their situation. They blame the economy, their upbringing, their education, their relationships, or even their bad luck. While these things may have influenced their journey, they do not have to define their destination. Personal responsibility breaks the cycle of blame and replaces it with ownership. Ownership creates clarity, and clarity creates direction. When you accept that your actions matter and your decisions carry weight, you begin to see that change is not something you wait for but something you create. Taking responsibility does not mean ignoring real challenges or pretending everything is easy. Life can be unfair, circumstances can be limiting, and obstacles can be genuine. But responsibility changes the question from, why is this happening to me, to, what can I do about this? That shift in mindset is powerful because it turns helplessness into action. It transforms frustration into strategy. A person who takes responsibility understands that while they may not control everything that happens to them, they can always control how they respond. Personal responsibility also builds character. When you hold yourself accountable, you develop integrity and self-respect. You begin to trust yourself because you know you will do what you say you will do. That trust is priceless. Many people struggle with confidence not because they lack talent, but because they have repeatedly broken promises to themselves. Responsibility repairs that relationship with the self. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, effort over excuses, and growth over comfort, you strengthen your inner foundation. Another important aspect of personal responsibility is that it eliminates the illusion of quick fixes. Real change is rarely dramatic or instant. It is usually the result of small, consistent actions taken over time. When you accept responsibility, you stop searching for shortcuts and start focusing on systems. You realize that waking up earlier, reading regularly, practicing your skills, managing your time, and taking care of your health are not glamorous actions, but they are powerful ones. You stop waiting for circumstances to improve and start improving yourself so that you can handle any circumstance. This principle also changes how you view failure. Without responsibility, failure feels like proof that life is against you. With responsibility, failure becomes feedback. You begin to see mistakes not as dead ends, but as lessons. You analyze what went wrong, adjust your approach, and move forward wiser than before. This creates resilience because you are no longer fragile in the face of setbacks. You become adaptable. You stop fearing failure and start using it as a tool for growth. Personal responsibility also improves relationships because it reduces conflict and increases understanding. Instead of pointing fingers, you look inward. Instead of arguing to win, you seek to learn. You become someone who owns their mistakes, apologizes sincerely, and works to improve. People trust and respect individuals who take responsibility because they are reliable and honest. This trust opens doors in both personal and professional life. Perhaps the most important part of personal responsibility is that it returns your sense of control. When you believe that your life is shaped only by outside forces, you feel powerless. But when you accept responsibility, you realize that you are not powerless at all. You may not control the wind, but you can adjust the sails. You may not control every storm, but you can strengthen your ship. This inner shift changes everything. It changes how you see yourself, how you react to challenges, and how you build your future. It quietly transforms you from someone who waits into someone who acts, from someone who complains into someone who creates, from someone who dreams into someone who does. Every setback is raw material for a stronger comeback because adversity contains within it the very lessons, strength and clarity needed to build something better. A setback, by nature, feels like loss, disappointment, or failure. It can shake confidence, question effort, and make you doubt your direction. But when you look closer, setbacks are not the opposite of progress. They are often the pathway to it. They provide information that success alone cannot teach, and they expose weaknesses that comfort would have left hidden. When something goes wrong, it forces reflection. You begin to analyze what happened, what could have been done differently, and what must be improved. This reflection is valuable because it sharpens awareness. Without setbacks, many people would live on autopilot, repeating the same habits without ever questioning their effectiveness. Failure interrupts the routine and demands growth. It strips away false confidence and replaces it with real competence, built from experience rather than assumption. Setbacks also build emotional strength. When life goes smoothly, resilience lies dormant. It is only through struggle that the mind and spirit are trained to endure pressure. Just like muscles grow through resistance, character is strengthened through difficulty. Each time you fall and choose to stand again, you condition yourself to handle larger challenges. The pain of a setback stretches your capacity, making you more prepared for future battles. Another powerful aspect of setbacks is that they refine direction. Sometimes failure is not just about doing something wrong, but about doing the wrong thing. A setback can act as a redirection rather than a rejection. It can show you that your energy is better spent elsewhere, that your talents are meant to be applied differently, or that your approach needs to evolve. What feels like a dead end can actually be a signpost pointing toward a better path. Setbacks also teach humility, which is essential for growth. When everything goes right, it is easy to become complacent or arrogant. But adversity reminds you that there is always more to learn. Humility opens the door to feedback, mentorship, and self-improvement. A person who has failed and learned becomes more grounded, more patient, and more understanding, not just toward themselves, but toward others as well. A comeback is stronger precisely because of what was lost. When you rebuild after a fall, you don't simply return to the old version of yourself. You evolve into something more aware, more skilled, and more disciplined. You learn to prepare better, plan smarter, and act with greater intention. The cracks created by failure become the places where new strength is formed. The lessons learned from struggle become tools that you can carry into every future challenge. Setbacks also fuel hunger. Success achieved easily can be taken for granted, but success earned after struggle is valued deeply. The frustration, embarrassment, and disappointment that come with falling short can ignite a powerful inner fire. That fire, when directed properly, becomes determination. It becomes focus. It becomes the quiet commitment to try again, but smarter and stronger. This internal drive is often the difference between those who fade and those who rise. Pain, when processed correctly, becomes wisdom. Every disappointment leaves behind a truth about your habits, your mindset, your level of preparation, or your emotional control. People who grow from setbacks are not those who avoid pain, but those who study it. They extract meaning from it. They stop asking why it hurt and start asking what it taught. What makes the comeback stronger is not just the recovery itself, but the identity shift that happens along the way. You stop seeing yourself as fragile and start seeing yourself as resilient. You stop defining yourself by your worst moments and begin defining yourself by how you responded to them. That shift builds confidence that no praise could ever give because it is rooted in experience, not opinion. A setback, when embraced, becomes more than an obstacle. It becomes training. It becomes preparation. It becomes the foundation upon which a stronger, wiser, and more disciplined version of you is built. Daily discipline creates long-term transformation because real change is not built through rare bursts of motivation, but through repeated, often boring actions that compound over time. Discipline is the quiet force that works when no one is watching, when excitement fades, and when the initial inspiration disappears. It is the bridge between who you are today and who you want to become. Without it, goals remain dreams. With it, even the most distant vision becomes reachable through consistent effort. Many people misunderstand transformation as a dramatic, overnight shift. They believe one big decision, one big moment, or one big opportunity will change everything. In reality, lasting change is almost invisible while it is happening. It is found in waking up a little earlier, choosing to practice when you feel tired, reading when you feel distracted, and staying patient when results are slow. These small daily acts seem insignificant in isolation, but together they shape identity, character, and capability. Discipline works because it removes reliance on emotion. Feelings are temporary and unpredictable. One day you may feel inspired, confident, and energetic. The next day you may feel doubtful, tired, and unmotivated. If your actions depend on how you feel, your progress becomes inconsistent. Discipline creates structure. It says you will act regardless of mood, weather, or circumstance. This creates reliability, and reliability is the backbone of transformation. Over time, daily disciplined actions turn into habits. Habits reduce the mental effort required to do the right thing. What once felt difficult becomes natural. This is how real change becomes sustainable. You are no longer forcing yourself to be someone better. You are becoming that person through repeated behavior. Your identity silently shifts as you prove to yourself, day after day, that you can show up, follow through, and do the work. Another powerful element of daily discipline is momentum. When you keep small promises to yourself consistently, you begin to build confidence. This confidence is not based on words or compliments, but on evidence. You trust yourself because you have proven that you are capable of discipline. This trust fuels further action. You don't have to rely on external motivation because your own track record becomes your motivation. Daily discipline also teaches patience. In a world that glorifies instant results, discipline trains you to value the process. It teaches you that progress is often slow and invisible, but still real. You learn to fall in love with effort rather than outcome. You understand that success is not a single event, but a lifestyle that is built quietly, consistently, and deliberately. This mindset protects you from quitting too soon because you stop expecting fast rewards and start appreciating gradual improvement. There is also a compounding effect to discipline. Small improvements, when repeated daily, grow exponentially over time. A tiny increase in effort, skill, or focus today will be multiplied by tomorrow's effort, and the next day's, and the next. What seems like minimal progress in the short term becomes extraordinary progress in the long term. This is how average people achieve remarkable results without dramatic talent or luck, solely through consistency. Daily discipline strengthens self-control. Every time you resist comfort, distraction, or laziness, you strengthen your mental muscle. You become better at delaying gratification and choosing long-term reward over short-term pleasure. This ability is one of the strongest predictors of success in any area of life. Discipline gives you control over impulses, making you less reactive and more intentional in how you live. The process of discipline also builds resilience. When you practice showing up on days when you don't feel like it, you train yourself to function under discomfort. This prepares you for real challenges because you are no longer dependent on perfect conditions. You learn to perform in imperfect circumstances. That skill becomes priceless when facing pressure, uncertainty, or adversity. Daily discipline shapes your future quietly but powerfully. Each small, repeated action is like a vote for the person you are becoming. Over time, those votes stack up. They form habits, character, identity, and destiny. You may not see the full change in a week or a month, but over years, discipline builds a version of you that is stronger, more capable, more focused, and more purposeful than you could have imagined. Growth requires letting go of old habits, excuses, and limiting beliefs because you cannot build a new version of yourself on the foundation of an outdated identity. Many people say they want to grow, but they try to carry their old patterns into their new goals. This internal conflict creates stagnation. Real growth begins when you are willing to release what feels familiar but no longer serves your future. This process is uncomfortable because familiarity feels safe even when it keeps you small. Old habits are powerful because they are automatic. They were built through repetition, comfort, and survival. Some habits might have protected you during a difficult time, helped you cope with stress, or given you a sense of control. But once your goals change, those coping mechanisms can become barriers. Habits like procrastination, negative self-talk, avoidance, and unhealthy routines don't disappear just because you want to improve. They must be replaced intentionally and consistently. Letting go of them means actively choosing discomfort over ease, effort over laziness, and awareness over autopilot. Excuses are another hidden trap. Excuses sound logical, reasonable, and sometimes even wise. They tell you that timing isn't right, that resources are lacking, that conditions aren't perfect, or that you need to feel ready before starting. But excuses serve one primary function: they protect the ego from discomfort and failure. When you release excuses, You stop seeking comfort in explanation and start seeking growth through action. This shift is painful because it removes the safety net. There is no longer a story to hide behind, only responsibility and truth. Limiting beliefs are often the most difficult to let go of because they feel like facts. These beliefs usually form early in life, shaped by experiences, opinions of others, failures, and social conditioning. Thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, people like me don't succeed, or this is just how I am, become mental walls. They quietly dictate behavior, avoiding risks, downplaying potential, and settling for less. When you begin to challenge these beliefs, you feel resistance because your mind is trying to protect its sense of identity, even if that identity is limiting. Letting go creates a psychological gap. You are no longer the old version of yourself, but you haven't fully become the new one either. This in-between phase feels unstable. You feel uncertain, exposed, and uncomfortable. Many people quit during this phase because uncertainty feels like danger. But this is actually the phase where growth is happening. It is the breaking of old structures to make space for stronger ones. Releasing old patterns also requires forgiveness, especially toward yourself. Growth is not about self-hatred or punishment. It is not about judging your past mistakes. It is about understanding that who you were was doing the best they could with the knowledge and awareness they had at that time. When you forgive yourself, you create emotional freedom. That freedom gives you the strength to move forward without constantly being dragged back by guilt, regret, or shame. Growth also requires awareness. You cannot let go of what you don't notice. Patterns live in the subconscious, running quietly in the background of your daily life. When you begin to observe your thoughts, behaviors, and emotional reactions, you begin to expose what has been controlling you. Awareness is uncomfortable because it reveals truth. But truth is the only place from which change can begin. Letting go does not mean forgetting your past. It means refusing to let your past dictate your future. It means understanding that your history explains you but does not have to imprison you. When you drop old habits, excuses, and limiting beliefs, you are not losing a part of yourself. You are shedding weight that was slowing you down. The process of releasing is often quiet. It doesn't look impressive from the outside. There are no grand announcements or dramatic moments. It happens internally through small decisions, repeated courage, and a growing sense of self-respect. Each time you choose discipline over comfort, truth over excuses, and growth over stagnation, you weaken the old identity and strengthen the new one. Your identity must evolve before your results do, because the way you see yourself determines the actions you take, the standards you accept, and the effort you are willing to sustain. Results are always the surface level reflection of deeper inner beliefs. If you try to change outcomes without changing identity, the effort becomes temporary. You might experience short-term success, but you will often drift back to old behaviors because your self-image pulls you toward what feels familiar and safe. Identity is the silent script that runs in the background of your life. It influences what you think you deserve, what you believe is possible, and what you consider normal for yourself. When someone sees themselves as undisciplined, they will struggle to stay consistent even if they temporarily feel motivated. When someone sees themselves as unlucky, they will subconsciously expect failure and often behave in ways that bring it about. When someone sees themselves as capable and resilient, they naturally rise to challenges instead of avoiding them. Changing identity is not about pretending or lying to yourself. It is about rewiring your internal narrative through consistent evidence. You don't become confident by saying, I am confident, while avoiding hard things. You become confident by showing yourself through repeated action that you can handle discomfort, learn from mistakes, and improve. Every small promise you keep to yourself becomes proof that your identity is shifting. This is why identity change happens before visible results. The internal shift in thinking, standards, and discipline usually happens quietly. No one can see it at first. But when your mindset upgrades, your behavior follows naturally. When your behavior changes, your habits start aligning with your goals. Only then do results begin to change. People often reverse this process by waiting for success to feel confident, but confidence comes from preparation, repetition, and self-trust, not from external outcomes. An evolving identity also changes your standards. You stop asking, what can I get away with? And start asking, what does the best version of me do in this situation? That single shift transforms daily decisions. A person who identifies as healthy chooses nourishment over comfort. A person who identifies as focused protects their time. A person who identifies as disciplined does not negotiate with laziness. These actions don't feel forced because they align with who the person believes they are becoming. Another powerful aspect of identity evolution is the way it changes your environment. When your identity upgrades, you naturally move away from people, habits, and spaces that don't match your new standards. Certain conversations start to feel empty. Certain routines start to feel like a waste. You become more intentional about who you learn from, who you follow, and what you consume. This environmental shift further accelerates your results because your surroundings begin to support your growth instead of sabotaging it. Identity change also affects how you respond to challenges. Without a strong identity, obstacles feel like proof that you are not capable. With a developed identity, obstacles feel like part of the process. You begin to see yourself as someone who does not quit, who adapts, who learns, and who endures. This mindset keeps you moving forward when circumstances are difficult, which is often the exact point where success is decided. The evolution of identity is gradual, not instant. You don't wake up one day being a completely different person. You build that person through small actions done consistently over time. Each disciplined choice, each courageous step, each moment of self-awareness reshapes how you see yourself. Over time, these experiences form a new internal image. That image then dictates behavior automatically, without forcing or constant struggle. When your identity evolves, you stop chasing validation. You stop needing others to believe in you, because you have built trust within yourself. You know what you stand for. You know the standards you live by. You know the direction you are moving in. That quiet certainty becomes your foundation. It stabilizes you even when results are slow or invisible. The most powerful transformations are always internal first. You think differently before you act differently. You act differently before you live differently. The world does not reward who you want to be. It responds to who you consistently show yourself to be through actions aligned with your evolving identity. Consistency beats intensity when it comes to lasting success because sustainable progress is built through repetition, not occasional bursts of extreme effort. Intensity feels powerful in the moment. It feels like change is happening quickly. It feels dramatic and exciting. But intensity is difficult to maintain. It depends heavily on mood, energy, and motivation, which naturally rise and fall. Consistency, on the other hand, is stable. It is rooted in routine, discipline, and commitment rather than feelings. When someone relies on intensity, they tend to work hard for short periods and then burn out. They might exercise aggressively for a week, then stop for months. They may work late nights for a few days, then lose momentum. This pattern creates frustration because effort does not translate into lasting results. Consistency solves this problem by focusing on small, repeatable actions that can be maintained even on bad days. It creates a steady rhythm that keeps you moving forward regardless of how you feel. The power of consistency lies in compounding. Small actions, when done repeatedly, build momentum over time. A tiny improvement repeated daily becomes significant over months and years. You may not notice changes immediately, which is why many people underestimate consistency. But beneath the surface, progress accumulates. Skills sharpen, habits strengthen, discipline deepens, and character develops. This slow accumulation eventually reaches a tipping point where results suddenly become visible, even though the foundation was built quietly over time. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on a small commitment, you send a message to your mind that you are reliable. This self-trust becomes a powerful internal driver. You no longer depend on outside praise, pressure, or motivation. You act because it is who you are, not because of how you feel. That inner reliability is what separates people who achieve their goals from those who constantly start and stop. Another reason consistency wins is that it creates stability and identity. When you practice a habit daily, it becomes part of who you are. You don't think of yourself as a person trying to be disciplined. You become a disciplined person. That shift makes actions easier because they are aligned with your self-image. Intensity can temporarily change behavior, but consistency permanently reshapes identity. Consistency also reduces fear and resistance. When tasks are small and routine, your mind feels less threatened. Big, intense efforts trigger overwhelm and procrastination. But small, consistent steps feel manageable. You are more likely to start, and once started, more likely to continue. This psychological effect makes consistency more practical and accessible for long-term growth. In professional life, consistent effort builds reputation. People trust those who show up every day, deliver regularly, and maintain steady performance. Talent may open the door, but reliability keeps it open. In personal development, consistent routines create structure. Instead of relying on bursts of willpower, you rely on systems. These systems protect you during times of stress, fatigue, or uncertainty because they guide your actions when your feelings cannot. Consistency also builds resilience. When you work in small, repeatable steps, you learn how to handle obstacles without quitting. You become accustomed to showing up even when conditions are not perfect. This trains your mind to separate action from emotion. You no longer wait to feel ready, inspired, or confident. You act first and the feelings follow later. Another key advantage of consistency is that it makes failure less catastrophic. When you live intensely, failure feels like the end because you invested so much energy in a short time. But with consistency, setbacks are just small interruptions in a long journey. You can recover more easily because your system is still in place. One bad day doesn't define you. One missed step doesn't erase months of effort. Over time, consistency builds a quiet kind of confidence. You don't feel the need to prove yourself loudly. You don't chase fast wins for validation. You trust the process because you have lived it. You understand that success is not about dramatic moments of effort, but about steady commitment to small actions repeated daily. This steady approach reshapes your future in a way intensity never can. It makes growth predictable. It makes progress sustainable. It builds a life that doesn't depend on rare moments of motivation, but on reliable habits and disciplined routines that quietly move you forward every single day. Rebuilding yourself is not a one-time event, it's a lifelong commitment. It's choosing progress over comfort, truth over excuses, and growth over fear every single day. It's understanding that your past does not own you, your mistakes do not define you, and your struggles do not disqualify you. You are not here to remain the same, you are here to evolve. Every disciplined action, every brave decision, and every moment of self-belief builds a stronger foundation beneath your feet. You don't rebuild yourself by waiting for the right moment. You rebuild yourself by becoming the right person for the moment. If you walk away with one thing today, let it be this: you are capable of more than you have ever demanded from yourself. Your future is not something you wait for, it is something you create. I wish you the strength to rise, the courage to change, and the discipline to become the person your future needs. May your journey be bold, your mind be strong, and your growth be unstoppable. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your belief in your own potential.